Hello and welcome to the Aviation Barbecue. Here in the UK, we're in the second week of essential lockdown due to the spread of coronavirus, but many key workers are still out on the front line, keeping the country moving. That includes a lot of military personnel who are supporting the medical services and the overall emergency support effort. For the RAF, that includes helicopters, transport aircraft. They're being dispatched around the country, plus all the usual functions of the Air Force, and they're still continuing as well, protecting the UK airspace and maintaining QRA, quick reaction alert, 24/7, for example. With so many events cancelled, the first half of the airshow season is simply not happening. But it's a great time to reflect on the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrows. For them, it's business as usual, preparing for the season and hopefully encapsulating that kind of spirit that's going to get us all through this global crisis.
By the magic of video conferencing, Rich Cooper is back with me again. Morning, mate.
Hi, how you doing? All right, mate? You okay?
Oh, yeah. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I noticed you've had a bit of a homeschooling beard trimming session there. Is that right?
I've done a bit of trimming here, but this isn't. I'm not touching this until we're out of lockdown.
Excellent. It's not a homeschooling experiment then with the kids.
No. This bit isn't being touched until we're out of lockdown. So
It's going to go full handlebar.
It depends how long the lockdown goes on for. We'll see what it's going to be like. But it's with everyone kind of not getting their fix of aviation at the moment, we're thinking about the Red Arrows and the looking ahead, and staying positive. Air shows aren't on for the first half of the season, but hopefully we can look forward. And the Reds are always a massive highlight for so many people, so many families. So we're just having a bit of a chat today about what they do, what they stand for, and what's been going on in recent years. And luckily, we're going to be talking to Dan Lowes, who has just left the team. It was his last season last year, but he was pivotal and really important in the tour to North America. He played a big part in that.
Excellent. Yeah, that tour was something special, wasn't it?
It was amazing. It was nothing short of extraordinary what they achieved.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to learning about how they do it. I mean, how do you put that together? And then how must it feel when you're front and centre in something like that?
Yeah, I think that's what I want to know about. I watched the TV series. It was excellent. I thought it came across really well. But I want to know a little bit about what Dan felt from a personal point of view, how he felt taking part in the shows, like a bastion of Great Britain almost, wasn't it, as well, which is a really cool side of things. But also then mixing it up with the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. I mean, those boys are pretty impressive, and they're very different to the way the Reds do their show.
Yeah, I guess
no less impressive, but it's an incredible thing to see the two teams join together and learn from each other. I really want to hear a bit more about that.
Did they actually fly together on the tour?
Yeah, they did. There was a fly past, wasn't there, over New York, wasn't it? So yes, all three teams together.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, because there was one. Yeah, Raptor and F-35. They all kind of, there was a massive thing.
Yeah,
over New York, wasn't there? Well, I'll ask them about that. Anything else you want to know about?
Well, obviously a little bit about where they're at now. I know he's obviously left the team as such from last year, but he'll have a handle on where things are at from the team's point of view in the preparation and staying current, and that kind of stuff would be really cool. I suppose the logistics would be a good thing to touch on. I mean, they're old jets going that far across the Atlantic, so that'd be really interesting to hear about. And obviously, I'm just looking forward to those ribs at the end of it as well.
They're coming up. They're still on. They've got a bit of time. Logistic timing and putting together this show and barbecuing at the same time. It's something like ribs that take 4 hours. It's logistically, it's nothing like the Reds. It's not.
No, I was going to say, come on, let's put it in context.
It's challenging enough for me, though. Okay, so
yeah.
We'll bring it together. Anyway,
the precision and the timings. That's one of the things that gets me about the Reds every time. I mean, you see all these other teams out there, and they're all brilliant for what they do. But my personal favourites, but the Frecce is amazing. The Blues are obviously incredible, as are the Thunderbirds are a great spectacle. But the Reds, for what they do and how they do it, so consistency and the transitions between the formations and the precision and how much time they keep in front of the crowd at any one moment, and the universal appeal from young to old. I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, really looking forward to this one.
Well, let's get right on it, and we'll have a chat again on the other side of the interview. Joining me now is Dan Lowes. Dan completed his third and final tour with the Red Arrows last year, and he took part in the amazing North America tour. We're going to talk to Dan about what it's like to be on the Reds and what that American tour was like. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to see you. How's it? First of all, how are you and where are you?
I'm well, thank you, and I'm keeping myself to myself. I'm keeping myself as well and as healthy as I can. Unfortunately, it means that I've had to, like most of us, separate from family and friends, but I think at this moment, that's the least of our worries. As long as we can do all we can to help those that are trying to keep our country healthy and keep us alive, then I think that's the best we can do. So I live in London. I've lived here for a couple of years now, and clearly, obviously, it's a densely populated area. So here more than ever, I think we have to be quite disciplined in what we're up to. So I'm getting my one bit of exercise a day, whether that be first thing in the morning or last thing at night, to try and keep myself away from people as much as possible. Apart from that, it's...
I quite agree, and it's amazing. There's obviously a lot of RAF people out in the front line doing a lot of stuff at the moment, and we're trying to give people a little bit of light relief from the doom and gloom that's out there. Hence, we thought about talking about the Red Arrows today. And so, can you just, I mean, obviously this is going up to air cadets as well, are going to be able to see this. So, can you just tell us a little bit about your RAF career, your incredible RAF career, and your time on the Red Arrows, and what it was like to be part of that?
Yeah, cool. I was incredibly lucky. You know, I had, if I could have sat down as a kid at school and written out a career that I would have liked to have had as a pilot in the Royal Air Force, then apart from the odd little piece here and there, then I was extremely lucky. I lived it, and you know, if I could do it all again, I would. How did that start for me? Well, that actually started for me in my early teens. I joined the Air Cadets. I joined the Brooklyn Squadron, which was 11F Squadron, which was at Brooklands College. I did that for a few years whilst I did my GCSEs and my A-levels, and that was amazing. You know, that not only that teach me discipline, teamwork, loyalty, started to give me that sense of service, but also giving me that realization that, you know, I did love flying. It's quite easy to think you love flying. It's one of those things that the thought is amazing, but actually when you're there, sometimes the stress and strains of what it is to become that might not be as palatable as the dream. But you know, I was very lucky. I did quite a bit of flying in tutors out of RAF Benson in my mid-teens, and some gliding, and realised that actually, you know what, this is something I loved and wanted to do. So yeah, I joined at 19. A couple of days after my 19th birthday, I commissioned, and that was the start of the journey, really. So I went off and I flew the Grob at RAF Whittam. I was lucky enough then to go on to fast jet training, which was on the Tucano, then the Hawk. And then just after my 23rd birthday, I joined 29 Squadron, which is the Typhoon Operational Conversion Unit, where when you think you know what you're on about, that was a complete... So, yeah, it was funny actually. And when I go, and I'm sure most people will agree with this, you know, you get to the tutor and then you get to your next aircraft, for me to say the Tucano, and you thought, wow, this is huge. How am I ever going to fly this? And then you get to the Hawk, you think, oh my goodness, this is massive. How am I going to fly this? And then you get to the Typhoon and it blows you away. And again, you do the OCU, you struggle your way through that, you make it, you get to your frontline squadron. And I'll never forget my first frontline trip. I lay in bed. I was living in the mess at the time at RAF Coningsby, and I didn't sleep that night. I just thought, no, this is beyond me. I've gone too far now. At any moment now, someone's got to say stop. And I kept going, and again, most amazing time. I flew for 3 Squadron, for 1 Squadron, for 6 Squadron. I went off and did the Qualified Weapons Instructor course, became a QI, as it's known in the Air Force. I joined 41 Squadron, the Test and Evaluation Squadron. And an amazing time. They were bringing in, we were starting to take more and more weapons off the Tornado GR4 as they were seeing out of service. So a lot of stuff on the Paveway 4, on dual mode Brimstone. Spent a lot of time up in the at China Lake in America, which was just incredible. For those who know it, they call it the skate park for fighter pilots, because it is just, it's a free, really controlled and safe, but a free to make. And then after all that time, just when I thought, you know, it couldn't get any better, I was incredibly lucky. And on my 3rd attempt of trying, I was successful in my application for the Red Arrows. And then I joined them at the end of 2016 season. So just as the team were out on that amazing trip to China, and I thought, this is like joining a squadron that just got back from operations. All the stories will be there, and you weren't part of it. But in my 3 years, what a 3 years! We went to the Middle East at the end of my first tour. We celebrated the Royal Air Force 100th anniversary in my 2nd season, and then we just completed 3 months of an incredible tour in North America. And so when I look back, as I say, 10-year-old Dan writing down what he'd like to achieve as a pilot in the Air Force. And yeah, I'm very happy with what happened.
Well, what's it like when you're in a situation like that, in a 3-year tour like that, and you're in an organisation like the Reds? I mean, what's it like to see the reaction of people out there? See all those faces, just know that so many people are watching you. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
It is, and you spend your first couple of, well, it never really goes away, but it's just how you manage it personally. But certainly your first couple of shows, if not your entire first season, you spend the whole time thinking that you're going to be the person that's going to let everyone else down. And the bigger shows you go to, the more people you see, your horizons widen. So your first couple of shows, you're just staring at red one. And I know that's what, if there are red ones listening, they'll say that's what you should be doing for every. You don't move. Your eyes are pinned on the exact reference that you need. You're listening to the cadences that you need to be execute for the rest of the team. You're listening to the commands from the team leader, listening to the guys around you, feeling them almost around you, making sure that you're in the right place and you're not going to let them down. But then as you grow and you grow into the role, then every now and then there might be a quick millisecond of a pause in the show that you can just have a quick look at the crowd line, and you see the depth of people and how long the show line is and how many people have turned up to that particular show. And then it just elevates your it excites you more, it elevates the adrenaline pumping through your veins, and then you realize that there's more to everything than just your position in that, but how clinical you must be in that role to do it. And that's airborne, but the big thing is when you get to meet people on the ground, you meet people, that's probably the most satisfying. There have been days where the weather's been awful and it's a 50-50, do we, don't we go, it's the Queen's birthday fly past, the pressure's high, and you execute, and that is professionally satisfying. But there's nothing better than when you meet people on the ground and you meet people who come from less privileged backgrounds, who this is their big thing of the summer, or you've met people who've literally traveled hundreds of miles to be that show, people who have come because they've got family illnesses and this is something that they want to do, and you realize when you look in their eyes that you've changed their day for a fraction of a second, for a moment. But that is by far the best thing that you can do.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. What a great insight. I mean, and I think it's important to stress that, the Red Arrows isn't just about the 9 team pilots, is it? It's a huge team effort with a whole range of different trades that people are doing in order to make that happen.
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. And, there's 130 people there in total in the building up at RAF Scampton. And that's the people day to day in the building. What you also don't see is the people that take the inputs for what shows want the pilots, the people who run the meetings down in London, High Wycombe or elsewhere about which show deserves what attention, where can that be. And obviously there's massive shows where literally hundreds of thousands of people turn up, but it's just as important to turn up to those shows in Scotland where there might only be 50 to 100 people, because this is a national asset that needs to be seen and needs to be taken everywhere. Now, when it does taken everywhere, well, yes, you've got your 9 pilots flying, 10 when you take, at the moment, squadron leader Adam Collins with you as well, or the wing commander. There could be 11 of you, but there's also got to be trucks on the ground. There's got to be refueling units. There's got to be, if we're going to go to Bournemouth, Newcastle, Northern Ireland, and do the Great North Run sometimes in the weekend, then where are you going to put your spare tyres? Where are you going to put your cleaning kit? Where are you going to get all those spares that might go here, there, everywhere with you? So gone are the days of being able to pack up a Hercules and just take them everywhere with us. We move everything by land and by truck these days, and it works, but it's because of the boys and girls on the ground. And that's on a display weekend. We drop the jets back off on a Sunday evening, 8-9 o'clock sometimes, and then the work starts. They take all the jets inside. They obviously service them. They look at what needs doing, and their day starts on Sunday night. And they make sure that 3-4 days later, 10 pristine jets roll out that hangar again, so that we can go fly around the country and hammer it again. So 130 people mean that 9 pilots can display for 22 minutes, but there's maybe more than 200 people, 250 people in that week cycle, making sure that is executed safely, and and the whole thing's entertaining enough to make people come back.
And then you take that model and then you try and take the whole thing over to North America and do it. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, the North America tour, I mean, that must have taken it to a different level. Can you just tell us some of your highlights? I mean, just getting across the Atlantic in a Hawk for a start.
Just to labour that point for a second there, you know, that was talking about just the domestic season. Now when you start talking about picking that up and taking it around somewhere as large as the United States for 11 weeks, now you're talking 400 people potentially, when you talk about how many people have put pen to paper to make that happen, how many people have risk assessed, how many people have travelled, how many people have done the site recce's, you know, that now you're into relying on other squadrons, transport squadrons, to pick you up and take your kit and your people across the world. You're relying on the A330 fleet, the Voyager fleet, to do your HF communications across the Atlantic, because there's no comms VHF for us, because there's no one out there to speak to. So how can we safely take a single engine aircraft, 12 of them, across the Atlantic twice, and make sure that we're looked after? You know, we relied on other nations for search and rescue assets. So the whole thing in terms of planning was huge. Personally, highlights, I mean, for those that have seen the Channel 5 documentary, and if you haven't, please go and search it out. One thing that you'll keep seeing is pilots getting out of aircraft, deep episode going, that was the best thing I've ever done. That was the best one. And it probably sounds a bit cheesy, but as the days went on, you just couldn't believe that it got better than the day before. I mean, you went from flying, it has to be, one of the highlights has to be that incredible fly pass we did down the Hudson. We had the Thunderbirds about a mile in front of us. There was obviously us in battle. We had 2 F-22s and 2 F-35s in the slot with us, of which one of the F-22s was the Brit exchange pilot that I'd flown Typhoon with. So there was a personal relationship with that formation as well. And it was the first time I personally had ever seen New York and Manhattan. We flew straight down the Hudson, over the top of the Statue of Liberty, did a 180 and flew back up the Hudson. I mean, if that was the one thing you ever did in an aircraft, it would be amazing. Yeah. I mean, 2-3 days later, we were flying over Niagara Falls. A couple of days after that, we were flying past the St. Louis Arch. A few weeks after that, we were flying over the Golden Gate Bridge in Alcatraz. Mount Rushmore. It just keeps, and every day you got on the jet, something more amazing happened. Or, even that fly past Manhattan, you thought, right, that's great. Well, a day later, we displayed at Stewart International Air Show, which was the New York Air Show that year. And at the top of the goose, as I rolled off the top to rejoin the show, you looked out and you could see on the horizon the silhouette of New York. And it was just, when normally that's Lincoln Cathedral, now you've got New York down the road. It was just phenomenal. Yeah, and I could bore you for hours with highlights, but the whole thing, it just rolled from one incredible event to another.
Did you get much of a chance? You mentioned the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels there. Did you get a chance to kind of talk about how you guys do it? Is there a commonality there? Is there stuff to be learned from each other?
Yeah, there is commonality. The commonality is that you want to take aircraft and personify perfection through aerial display. And, we're trying to show off when we were there, it wasn't about what the Royal Air Force do, it's about what Great Britain can do. So that was the one thing that I felt was a slight change in tone, operating there versus operating in the United Kingdom. We were there to show people what our country was about. It felt very patriotic. Obviously the Thunderbirds were there to show what the US Air Force can do, and the Blue Angels there for the US Navy and the US Marine Corps. So there were different aspects, there's different approaches to things. I mean, what is amazing that on operations or on exercises, all three of those units would have worked before together. So we've probably been on the same radio frequencies as pilots in previous lives. Guys would have been on the same operations in previous lives. So the commonality of what we were trying to achieve was the same. It was just amazing to see how we'd go about doing it differently. Clearly, we turned up with our 1970s BAE Hawks, which is not to play them down, because
what an amazing aeroplane, though. What a reliable, amazing aeroplane, really, to have done what it's done.
I would fly that aircraft over anything else most other display teams fly in a heartbeat. And in the 3.5 years that I joined the team, it went from Lincoln, to China. And we're talking about deserts, we're talking about high airfields, we're talking about humid airfields, we're talking about high temperature. So it went all the way through the desert, it went all the way through the jungle of Thailand and Malaysia to China and back. Didn't skip a beat. Now we then took it to America and back, where it crossed the Atlantic Ocean. It went from the East Coast to the West Coast and back again, through all different types of high altitude, low altitude airfields. And on the way back, we took it through the Arctic Circle because we had to divert north for weather. And we were starting up at -15 one day, which the jet was having a great time, but we were not, sat inside when you couldn't touch the control collar because it was too cold. So, you know, I mean, we got in one morning and it was about 5:30 in the morning. I think it was -12 or -13. And it was too cold that we couldn't put the batteries on, because if we put the batteries on, then they would deplete too quickly before we could start the engine. So we had to wait for our search and rescue asset to go and get de-iced, which was the Bombardier Challenger flown by the Danish Air Force. And so we had to sit there. And we thought we were going, but then their de-icing system took longer than expected. So every now and then you saw Red One's nav lights come on and his batteries came on. Everyone flick on to make sure they weren't late for check-in. It was just him telling us to wait a little bit longer. We turned them all off. And I'll never forget, there was a special moment looking across, and there was 12 red jets, and it was dark. The sun was just coming up. I mean, there was ice everywhere, and everyone, you could see them huddled in their jets. The canopies cracked ever so slightly so they weren't missing up inside. Just waiting to come home, and I just thought, you know what, this is a very special moment. And this aircraft can, as I say, take you through deserts, take you through jungles, and now it's taken me through the Arctic Circle. Yeah, I loved it. I did digress there. But yeah, seeing the fly, I mean, we had a very different approach to flying. I think we had very different shows. Ours is obviously only half the time in most of their shows. They take 45 to 50 minutes, some of their shows, but it's a very different approach. They want to demonstrate the role of their aircraft as much as a show, whereas we want to, after 20 minutes, keep people wanting more already. Just get in there, get it done, out. And it's probably a bit more fluid. Obviously the Blue Angels are incredible with flying as close as they do. I mean, you see some of their passes, and some of our guys were incredibly lucky to get packed rides with them, and they came down saying, yeah, it's not on the ground, it's as close as it looks in the air. You know, people will win. Yeah, absolutely. And then we
are really used to that close proximity of flying.
Yeah, absolutely. We had 2 or 3 of our Red Arrows pilots coming down going, nah, it's too close.
I mean, the Blue Angels especially are very, very well known, aren't they? For really, I mean, that kind of some of that mirror stuff, that's incredible. But I mean, let's not take away from the Reds. You know, you're pretty close as well.
We have no issue with conceding the fact that when we think we're close and where our self protection lines lie, the Blue Angels destroy that and off they go. I mean, we're talking, I would say, 7 to 11 feet. 7 is probably too close. 11 feet is probably about right. And I believe they talk in 18 inches. I think the Blue Angels talk about flying with wing overlap. I mean, if we did half the stuff they did, it would be a massive safety point. We'd have to sit down. It'd be very embarrassing for the pilot who accidentally got that close, and we'd have to sit down and work out why on earth we ended up there. Whereas they comfortably sit there. So I don't know.
Is that a mindset thing, or is that the actual design, the way the jet flies, or?
It's hard to say because I've not flown the F-18. You know, they have head-up display. They have 2 engines as well. I think that's a big thing, and that's one of the things I was very jealous of. Which is, if it wasn't the Reds, my favourite team in the world is the French display team. Yeah. I just think they're fantastic. Now, I just wonder as well, mindset-wise, with 2 engines. If you know that you can part one, and if you lose one, you're still not going to lose that much thrust. Then actually maybe you have that redundancy and that mindset or that safety net of going, well, I can push it in. Whereas if we lose our engine, well, that's us. We're completely out of thrust. So you can find yourself in trickier situations quite quickly if you fully rely on your systems to work for you the entire time. Now, touch wood, they do. But the fact is that if you definitely know if you lost one engine, you've got another, then you're going to be fine. And then there's down to the smoothness of the F-18, albeit in their defense, that is an old F-18. They're not brand new F-18. So the software in the systems or the wing design or the rest of it is still, those guys are still really flying those airplanes, taking nothing away from them at all. But maybe they've just got a few more systems working for them that allows them to push themselves into those positions maybe a bit more.
I mean, thinking about the flying and thinking about the current situation where we are right now, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns out there. I mean, and thinking about, those skills and all that you need to stay current. I mean, what will the current team be thinking about right now? What will they be doing, just broadly?
The current team, the big thing is keeping focus, I think. And that was from my my time in the team, the times where you found any discrepancy in the team bonding and staying together and staying on track was focus. If there was an and an the team was so used to processes. So, you know, you turn up, you met brief at 8:15, you go straight to the first brief of the day. Enid for the first couple of months of the season, Synchro or JIP have already taken off. You know, they've already self-metted. By the time, if you weren't getting to the hold point for the runway as the other formation were landing, you were late. It tended to be you were there. It was like clockwork. And when you get used to that, and then it becomes the 3 sets of 9 a day and building up, and then the manager starts getting involved with, right, this is what's happening today at this time. And, you know, the guys work very hard, and they will be this season as well. You know, they've still been hosting up until clearly all the restrictions. You know, they'll be hosting charity events once a week. They'll be hosting corporate events once a week, whilst also building up. Yeah, and they've got a big challenge on their hands this year in terms of, you know, exposure from previous teams. Obviously, they've got Simo in there as Red 5, who's been with the team a couple of years, and he was, you know, a huge asset for us on the tour, picking up jets whenever we needed to bring them. But now he's fully involved, you know, and he's back in that team, and he's doing a great job in there as Uncle Enid, trying to corral the other 3 guys. But, you know, that he's also learning his trade in a new position, being thrown into display season that he's been involved with but not particularly piloted before. So, you know, they've got a lot of challenges that way. And I mean, looking at the pictures that are coming out from Scamden, they're doing an incredible job. I mean, their 9 ship, I think one of the last 9 ships they did, you look at it and you think, you know, one of the worst things about being the team is you can't see pictures and not see the errors in it. You know, it's hard out of this year's team, you know, and when you think of essentially the dip in experience, you know, albeit they're back 4 as well, quite experienced, they're doing a great job. It looks fantastic, you know, and so I really do hope they get to show off that display this season. But as I said, the big thing will be the focus, will be the fact that their schedule, their flow has been disrupted. So how quickly can they get that back together? How quickly can they get direction? How quickly can they get light shone on what's going to be expected from them for the rest of the season? You know, they can't answer a lot of those questions. I mean, you look across professional sport, I mean, what's going to happen with the Formula 1 season? What's going to happen with the football season? So, you know, when you look at the grand scheme of things, it falls in line with all those. But it would just be how those guys, whereas maybe a sportsman could be going out for the run, or could be out kicking a football or throwing a rugby ball, or, you know, Formula 1 drivers could be at home simulators, all these kind of things. The thing with what the Red Arrows do is you have to be sat in the seat and you have to be doing that skill for it to progress. So it's how can they keep where they were mindset-wise, but also proficiency-wise, and how can they then grow that to come out and hopefully smash out the back end of what will be an amazing 2020 season.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, what a great insight. And let's all hope that we can see the Reds out there. We can return to some normality. We can kind of move on through this and see the Reds out there encapsulating that best of British, so people can get out there second half of the season, whenever it is, and see the Red Arrows in a public air display.
I agree, and as the Queen said, we will meet again. They will be out there, and they're a national asset. It's one of the few things that people can go to, take a family, not pay a single penny to have to attend it, and just be proud of what we are as a country and what we do. And as soon as we can get those 9 jets sparkling away in the air again, I think that will really start to lift the morale of the country again. It's something that I think needs to happen as quickly as it can. That's amazing, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Great to see you, and keep healthy. Anytime. Thank you. Well, that was a good chat. That was amazing. I mean, just
how was he?
To talk to it's great to be able to talk to people at home, what they're doing, get a bit of insight into how they're kind of dealing with this lockdown.
Yeah.
But to be able to talk about the Red Arrows and just kind of dip into someone's experiences, that was great.
Yeah, that's cool. They're such legends, aren't they?
Just very down to earth, very approachable.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff though, and the tour.
Was he in his red flight suit?
No, he wasn't in his red flight suit. That'd be a bit worrying. No, Dan isn't in the Reds anymore. Dan finished last year.
Yeah.
He's now out of the RAF, but great to be able to reflect on what was clearly an absolutely a pinnacle in his career.
Good word.
To go out to North America,
you know, and actually taking those Hawks, those 1970s era Hawks,
Yeah.
all the way across to the States.
Yeah. The logistics must have been incredible.
Logistics are, I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you even start planning?
I know. Just think of the range of the things, let alone anything else, and all the personnel, and all the kit, and all the spares, all the contingency stuff. I mean, that's a miracle in itself, isn't it?
It was amazing to talk about the other teams that they saw. So they saw the Thunder.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I can imagine.
Which is what we talked about earlier. And some of the Blue Angels. Oh. They were saying that was the thing that really, I mean, the Reds fly close, you know. But they were like, no, the Blue Angels were like, this is
insane, isn't it? It's absolutely unbelievable.
18 inches.
And that takes social distancing to a new level, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. So yeah, I mean.
So what was it like? What were the guys? What were they impressed about the most? I mean, the distancing, obviously, but was there some similarities between the way that the two teams operate?
I think just in
terms of, you know, them, how they're all military guys, you know, they're all from operational backgrounds. And Dan was saying, actually, it's quite interesting that they've probably all been on ops in different squadrons at some point. Maybe they've met each other before, you know.
Yeah.
The breadth of ops these days and the way that everyone comes together as a kind of.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So
like a Typhoon guy could have been with a Viper guy, for example, flying in now the national aerobatic teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think the difference is the main thing that I picked up on is the fact that the duration of the display is a lot longer for like the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels versus the Reds.
Yeah. I think they obviously make a lot more of the ground-based display, don't they? The American teams. That's kind of included in their display slot is right from when the first ground tech guys come out on the apron, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it really is. Although the Reds do have their formal starts as well, which they have part of that, but not quite the big.
It's not quite the
show that goes with it.
Pomp and circumstance, perhaps. It's I actually personally quite like it. I think it's very photogenic. I know a lot of guys don't particularly like it and think it's a bit OTT, but I actually, if you watch it and the precision involved, the way they're in that bubble, in that zone from the very first second it kicks off, it's really impressive to watch and amazing to photograph as well.
I think from a photography standpoint, I totally get that, because it's like it's there on a plate, isn't it? That you can get all the different angles, all the different shots. There's just so much there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to go and sort out the ribs, which are nearly ready. They're nearly ready. Yeah. However, got a little sneak preview.
Oh, you're unbelievable. Look at that. Look at the colour.
Just look at the colour on there.
Look at the colour.
Dude,
you're gonna eat it now as well, aren't you? Oh, mate.
Amazing.
Oh,
that's amazing.
That's crazy. So that looks quite. So you've got the sauce on it already. Is it quite a dry rub rather than a sticky sauce?
And there's a sauce on it as well.
Sweet. Yeah, I've got quite into the Chinese ones. You know, like the salt and pepper kind of ribs. They've been quite nice with the dry stuff. But sweet barbecue or smoky barbecue.
That is very tender.
I can barely talk.
I might have to do a little tutorial on the whole thing actually, because I'm quite new
to the
side of it, but that actually was really good.
You got a new smoker for this as well, didn't you?
Got a new smoker, yeah, Weber Smoky Mountain. So I'm very. It's easy. You can literally set it and it just goes. You basically put the coals in, light them up, fill the water pan, put your meat in, and you can sit back and leave it for a couple of hours and don't touch it.
Love it. So can you change the colour of the smoke like the Reds as well?
No, you can't change the colour of it.
That'd be cool.
Nice idea. I mean, but we should have talked about barbecue in North America. I didn't think about that. We should have gone into barbecue.
Yeah.
But no, what a great insight into the Reds. It's just great talking to those guys, isn't it?
Just the Reds. I mean, as much as you and I have done in our lives, you know, if the Reds ever go into Farnborough, because we're quite close to Farnborough, you know, it's like tools down, let's go, you know, isn't it? Just seeing them on approach there. I know.
Try and position people to see that the Reds are going up. And it's that.
Nice.
There you go.
You can't do that with anything else in this country, I don't think.
That's what it's all
about. It's that universal appeal.
The Lancaster did come over at the house a couple of summers ago, and that was a moment. So the Battle of Britain Memorial at Lancaster. Anyway,
that'll do it.
Great chat.
Yep.
Thank you once again, and
Can't wait to do it in person.
stay distanced, and get outside and do some barbecue.
You bet. Can't wait. All right, mate. See you later.
Catch you soon. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye bye.